a lot of people learn from books, from reading, from seeing, videos, stuff like that. I found that I learn the best from chatting with people, conversations, even arguing with people and hearing, kind of dynamics. So this is like a good fit for me, and this is like one of my biggest passions that I have, and it relates to the rest of the answer. At the end of the day, as you mentioned, we need to learn a lot of domain specific dynamics very, very fast. And by the way, that's a challenge that we all know in the investment world, right? By definition, when we meet the founders, a team or a founder, by definition, these founders should know that space better than us, right? If we know that space better than them, so something like that's what they're going to put their next 10 years of their lives into.
Ori Barzilay, welcome to the Matthias experiment in 20-minute leaders. I'm so excited to hypothesize with you and to understand your world and who you are. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
Awesome. Okay, so Ori, we know each other for quite some time. We are in a similar ecosystem. We get to interact with very amazing people, similar people in the day to day. So I've grown to have tremendous love and respect for you over the years. And today I have the privilege of now diving a little bit deeper and really understanding your why. And so today I really want to focus the conversation on understanding you a little bit better, what drives you and motivates you, some of the work that you're doing today at Team8 and as an investor and very active in the cyber ecosystem. But really understand, why is that so exciting for you, and what, especially in the point in time that we live in today. I think you're probably in my perspective, one of the most exciting spaces in the world and one of the most exciting places in the world to be in. And so, Ori, again, welcome to this conversation. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you even got into the space you're in.
Totally. So actually, it's an interesting story. Before being an investor, I started with product roles. And even if we go even more, to a previous chapter, I started in the IDF, like a lot of us. I was in Sayeret Matkal in the special forces of the intelligence department. And I was there in the technology department within Sayeret Matkal. I was there team leader and then a product manager. Um, and then afterwards, I became a product manager I led products in startups. So I was a product manager in an IoT Industry 4 company, and then a product manager in a cybersecurity company, in a SaaS security company. And I remember the moment that Pitango basically approached me, um, asking whether I'm interested to join the investment team. And this relates to a question because I remember me thinking it came a little bit early, to be honest, that approach and that like kind of option to get into the investment world. There's a lot of investors, very accomplished founders that build companies, sold companies, maybe IPO'd companies, and then in the second chapter of their career, they're going to be a VC investor. And I was like, I had like both feelings. On one hand, it felt a little too early. On the other hand, I had this strong feeling of I feel like it's something I should do, and it's something that it's even a bigger fit for my characteristic and what I find interesting. And the deeper insight was that I always felt I'm more like a broad person than a deep dive person. So I really enjoyed the broader view of seeing a lot of companies, a lot of founders, a lot of markets, different markets, and not being focused only on one specific vertical. And I think this is something that I feel today is a very strong fit, and it's something that very much motivates me in my day to day, and it's a very good fit for being an investor. You get to see a lot and speak with so many and so much educated, smart, innovative people every single day. That's just fascinating. So this is what drives me every day, actually.
And if you look at your very practical experience in the IDF and in product in other areas as well, how does that impact the relationship that you have with the different founders you work with, the opportunities that you see, the solutions that you're evaluating. How do you see your background being very hands on in really diving into the value proposition that you're creating and you're generating? How is that impacting the way that the way and the shape of your efforts today?
It's an interesting question. I think there are two ways, or maybe two parameters or two components to think through. So the first one is the professional one. I think there's an interesting overlap between being a product guy and an early stage investment investor here in the ecosystem. The overlap is that as being a product manager, you wake up in the morning and the thing you're responsible of is thinking always about the product market fit. And when you talk about product market fit, you need a kind of consider all kinds of considerations. So it needs to be the right market, the right buyer persona, the right go to market approach, the right technology, and you kind of need responsible to orchestrate all these considerations. And when you think about it, this is quite the way that we think of things as early stage investors, right? We don't have data like growth investors. We don't have previous, outcomes, previous traction. We're trying to kind of predict a potential product market fit of a specific technology in a specific market with a specific go-to-market approach. So this kind of way of thinking and way of analyzing things is a very good overlap that I feel I leverage today. So this is on the professional side. On the kind of the network and the soft skill side, I feel like at the end of the day, it's the Israeli ecosystem. So we're all leveraging the network that we have, the relationships that we have. So it's both on the IDF and our background that we have. And this kind of intersects with soft skills that you should and most of the product managers have as being kind of orchestrators. So this is a good fit as well and this is something that you can leverage as well, being an early stage investor. So that's like the second component.
I love it, and I think that, and I love the parallel that you're drawing for early stage investments and product management and how you're operating with a certain unpredictableness, but and you're venturing out to identify the product market fit, which really is the art of what you did back then. And if we're diving in one level deeper, you did choose to go from working on very specific problem spaces. You mentioned that the art of product market fit is ultra focused, right? You're basically constantly stripping away layers of ambiguity and generalizations to reach that really critical persona with a really critical pain point. Now you get to do that across many domains. You have to very quickly study new domains. What skills did you need to now level up in, and how do you now find your day to day doing it on many different domains versus on just one?
Yeah. So by the way, it relates to your first question. One of the reasons I entered to the investment world is, a lot of people learn from books, from reading, from seeing, videos, stuff like that. I found that I learn the best from chatting with people, conversations, even arguing with people and hearing, kind of dynamics. So this is like a good fit for me, and this is like one of my biggest passions that I have, and it relates to the rest of the answer. At the end of the day, as you mentioned, we need to learn a lot of domain specific dynamics very, very fast. And by the way, that's a challenge that we all know in the investment world, right? By definition, when we meet the founders, a team or a founder, by definition, these founders should know that space better than us, right? If we know that space better than them, so something like that's what they're going to put their next 10 years of their lives into. And that creates the challenge of being a good investor, that you need to kind of ramp up really fast to a certain level, a certain threshold in which you can really analyze it and really achieve a conviction and say, okay, this is, we see the world as they see, we share the same premise, and we want to bet on this team in this market. And the way to do it is gaining and leveraging the network that you have. So leveraging the network, the buyers, the personas that you know within that specific domain, and getting their insights and kind of confronting your thoughts with them. The second thing is actually have kind of a background in that domain, so you can really, you're not starting from zero, right? And this is what we do at Team8, actually. At Team8, we have kind of our knowledge and expertise that we already have in, let's say, a cybersecurity, data, AI, whatever we're dealing with. And then we're not starting from zero. So at the end of the day, our ability to learn fast a specific domain in that vertical is very, very good.
I've gotten to know quite a few VCs in the space, mainly because I also had the privilege of being in the VC space before founding my company, and I think it's pretty safe to say that Team8 is um, one of the most learning organizations I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is that you really do act on on the promise of constantly learning from real world environment. I got a chance to take a small part in the recent CISO summit, right? And I was witnessing what is it like to have 100 top CISOs sitting in a space where they immerse themselves in curiosity, sharing insights, being extremely open and present to these intellectual conversations, and witnessing both the investment team of Team8 in the room, as well as some founders of the Team8 portfolio, just taking it all in, right? And I can only and as investors, that ramp up that you're doing, it's one thing to do it in an existing category, in an existing domain that you want to evolve in. You're not always operating in an existing domain. A lot of times you're acting in an arms race, and there's new threat attack vectors that are coming out, and you have to be able to identify quickly what they mean. And so I very much realize and am hugely impressed with how yourself and Liran and Nadav and Israel and all the great team there, you've built this learning mechanism. Do you experience that in the day to day?
Totally, totally, and I have to say, look, by the way, I'm pretty new, relatively new at Team8, right? 1.5 years now, and the credit is all, the culture building that these guys have done. So the thing that I find most interesting is it's kind of a culture thing of being humble and assuming that no matter how much you know and how much you learn, always keeping your mind about what you don't know and always keeping your mindset of knowing more. And this is like kind of an humble approach that keeps us, the CISO village is a good example for that, right? Like assuming that the market always changes, always evolves. As you mentioned, attacks is an example for that. And for that purpose, we need to be with a pulse on the market always. To always be there with the market, engaging with the market, not assuming that we already hold the premise or hold, the dynamics because they're evolving continuously. And this is something that I feel that this is something very unique at Team8. Always being part of the market and always being educated by the market and not only, assuming that we hold the truth. And it translates to, it's not only a cliche or a title, it translates, as you mentioned, to operational, real projects, real operational approach of Team8. And it's part of our day to day.
Yeah, I think that the context in which you do it also is so well connected to the environment that you live in the cybersecurity space. It's not just being intentional about saying let's create a learning environment, let's bring some people who are knowledgeable to be advisors and represent. You really do engage them with real conversations and real outcomes, and ultimately it just shows in the investments you make and the portfolio founders that you back. Some of them are amazing friends of mine, some of them are investors in our company. So it's you really see the culture that you're creating transcend all the way down to the founders. Ori, what are you most curious by today? What are you most excited about?
Yeah. I think there are several things. Obviously, how AI is changing the world as we know it is a very interesting topic. And I think specifically The interesting thing is what's our role here in Israel in that kind of revolution, right? So a lot of people kind of compare that to the cybersecurity industry and Israel's role to that. And I think there are quite a few questions that are being asked with a good reason, comparing talent, comparing startups creation in this space, comparing the infrastructure role of Israel. Um, and I think one of the interesting things that we're trying to look, and I'm really passionate about, is trying to figure out what's our role. Both because at the end of the day, I feel like it's a very important part of the Israeli economy looking forward, and both because of my micro, day to day in my job to find the right opportunities and where are we the catalysts in this industry, and to deep dive a little bit into that. So I think it's a very interesting thing to try to find um, what are the opportunities that Israel, in a global perspective, is going to take in the AI revolution. So it might not be infrastructure as we were used to in other verticals, but and not only application layer, but middleware, for instance. So we won't be the NVIDIA of the world, and we won't be the OpenAI of the world, but there is a very, very big opportunity in the middleware, and it seems to me that this is a very interesting area to deep dive, and that's like a big passion of mine.
I love it, and I think that there's obviously new opportunities forming. I'm not convinced that we will not be the next Nvidia of the world. We were the Mellanox of the world, and we've but I think that also it goes in cycles, and technology is changing and shifting. And I agree with you that in today's landscape, there's massive opportunities. Those massive opportunities, I also experienced them a lot in this middleware angle, where I also think there's very exceptional talent here in terms of the culture that we've created in our country to do that. And Oli, I always love talking to you as a friend and as a colleague, and I'm very thankful that you agreed to join me here, and I hope this was helpful and insightful and fun for anybody who joined and listened to us. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me and continuing doing amazing work with Team8 and helping amazing founders. And best of luck.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure talking with you and chatting.